Any painting that you really like probably begins with lots of these, lots of small sheets. This happens to be about 7 by 10, 10 and a half. And this is actually probably twice the size of the sketch that I normally begin with. How many sketches does it take to realize an effective and an appealing keeper? God only knows. Some subjects are easier than others, and sometimes it just takes forever to really get what you're looking for. But today what I'm going to do is play around with a simple sky, some water, a little bit of a tree line in the background, maybe a tree line over here and a small island or something, and some rocks. But effort number one of many to get where I want to go. And this is the sort of thing you just keep doing and doing and doing until you think you're ready to step up to a larger and more expensive sheet of paper. And first thing I'll do is and I'm using a number 14 round brush just because this is a small sheet. For anything larger, I would probably use a 1-inch flat. And all I'm doing is putting water down, but leaving some, at least up on top, I'm leaving some dry spots, so that as I go back in there, after I put some paint down, I can kind of soften the darker values into the white with little rounded edges. I don't want puffy, happy little cartoon clouds. I want a sky that looks alive, but I will try to model some clouds in there. Anyway, I'm using a mixture of burnt umber and French ultra, leaning much toward the brown end, and yeah, that's good. We want some mood here, so I'm going to put down a couple genuine darks, darker value in the sky. And as you can see, it starts to run like crazy, even though I'm working at a drafting table. When I work outdoors, I work sitting down, unless I'm teaching a class, in which case I teach the class at an easel, which is a disaster because gravity being what it is, I should say, it pulls the water right down. So all I'm doing now is pulling some of the darker bits of sky with plain water into those dry spots, so that I don't get clear whites. I just want softer values, but still in the same family. That's coming along. And I'll put a couple of little cloud streaks in here. The art of banging out studies probably reached its zenith with the great J.M.W. Turner. Like all of us, Turner did studies, and he did sketches, and he did all sorts of experiments prior to attempting to finish painting. But toward the end of his career, he began doing what he called color beginnings. And these were just wild and highly expressionist color slashes, basically. And a lot of people thought he was losing his marbles, or his vision, or both. But it turns out if I could get my hands on one of those color beginnings today, I would be delighted to have it. Of course, they were magnificent art in their own right. And I had this little thing up here. You know what? It doesn't matter. This is one of, give me a number, 20 little studies that I would do in preparation for a real painting. And you can see how much value I attached to it because I didn't even bother drawing anything here. We're just playing. I'm getting to know some values. I'm getting to know some movement in the sky. I'm also working around the tripod of this silly camera. Haven't tried that before. Oh, baby. I picked up a little bit too much of the blue, but you know what? It's a value study. And if I were, working on a serious painting, I would have dried at this point, because right now you can see this is beginning to diffuse up into the sky, but I don't care if you don't, since this is just attempt number one. So I've got something out there. It could be an island. And then over here on the right side, and this will also diffuse into the wet paint. I'm going to put, I want something a little bit darker value. That may dry lighter, it may not dry light enough for me, but in the finished painting that would recede. I want some recession there, so that sort of pokes into the background. And because the paint on this side is so wet, I'm trying to get I'm trying to put the paint on as dry as I can, but as you can see, it's even though I'm working at a drafting table as opposed to an easel, it's still running down fairly well, maybe more than you like. But on the other hand, if you want a reflection in here, great way to do a reflection is simply, you know, pull down some of the shapes from this large mess that we have here right now, and then, you know, streak across here and there to try to let it blend in, and it will. But again, at this point, all I'm trying to do is pick out the vaguest of shapes and see if I really like this scene. You know, that's what it's all about in the end. The early studies, the early sketches, the early color beginnings are simply about seeing if I've got shapes that will hold my attention, value changes that will make it appealing for someone to actually look at this painting, and if I really like it. And if I don't, well, I've wasted 1/8 of a sheet of paper, or 1/16. Okay, I've got an interesting sky. It has some life to it. That's the phone in the background. I'm going to shut that off right now. The best laid plans of mice and men. I can't do anything about that. And finally, I want to put some rocks down here because the phone is still ringing, as you can hear. This film will not get an Academy Award, I guarantee it. I guarantee very few things, but that one I can guarantee. No Academy Award for this. And down in southern Maine, down around Kennebunkport, the rocks tend to be very jagged and sharp. And farther north, as I have seen from some lovely photos a friend of mine sent me recently, you get these nice, long, sweeping, smooth, rounded stones. I love them. So I'll put some of those in. The stones don't diffuse into the water like that, of course, but you know, working with a wet sheet, there's not much you can do. But what I'm telling myself here is I generally like the composition. I think this would work. I think this is something that I could spend some time with if I were working more slowly, if I were drawing as I went. I think this has some potential, and maybe over here I'd put a couple little, and it'll diffuse, right? But a couple little touches of seagrass of some sort, whatever that is. And if it's not there and you want it there, just put it there. You know, invent it. And if it's there and you don't want it there, take it out. But sometimes by adding just a couple touches of you know, seagrass, you can sort of unite the foreground with the middle ground. But you know, I think for a very quick study, whatever how many minutes that was, I don't know. I think this tells me, yeah, I would take this to the next step. Do another study, maybe draw for that one, maybe not, and then another study. And as I do increasing numbers of studies, I get larger and larger and larger until finally I'm working half sheet, full sheet. And along the way, I keep changing things. Do I need that seagrass? I would certainly sharpen these edges. I'd probably lighten this so it recedes a little bit more. But you know, there you have the basics of the very quick and simple color beginning a la J.M.W. Turner. He did them better, by the way.